Rocket League wasn't always as we know it to be now. The game that we know and love, released on July 7th, 2015, has come a long way since its first season, and that's in all aspects of the game. Within the community, you have smaller communities. You have pro players, ranked players, the casual community, traders, freestylers, and those who only really play the extra modes. A game that started as a simple car football game has now become one of the most challenging games to master in the esports scene. And so, to look into that, today's video will be a journey of how the game and its gameplay have progressed over the years, starting in Season 1 and finishing up in the present day. And speaking of present day, today's video is actually sponsored by Team Liquid and Alienware, who have put together a 3v3 tournament that all of you can enter, for free. Yep. You and your friends can sign up and compete for cash prizes and gear in tournaments taking place in NA, EU, and yes, I can very proudly say Oceania as well. The format for these tournaments will be 4 qualifiers, each being a double elimination bracket with the top 2 teams qualifying to the regional finals. From there, the 8 teams that qualified from each region play in a double elimination bracket, and the tournament ends after this second stage, unless you are one of the A and Z teams, as you will then move on to stage 3, which will be a best of 7 match broadcast live from Melbourne, Australia, and will potentially be a live finals with travel involved, depending on the travel policy right now. I promise you, nowhere near as complicated as it might sound. Now, signups are easy. You click the link in the description, hit register, link your smash.gg account, and you and your mates are well on your way to taking out some prizes. First qualifiers are 28th of August, but if you need more time, the 3rd and 4th are September 4th and 5th, and registration ends an hour before it starts. So get your mates together and get in quick. For further information, link in the description has everything you need. Do not miss out, especially you Oceania lads, as this is a tournament you don't want to miss. So, believe it or not, Season 1 gameplay at the highest level looked like this. What you are seeing is the final match of RLCS Season 1. The game was slower, less organized, rotations were sloppy, mechanics were nowhere near what they are now. In fact, the most impressive thing you could do at this time was an air dribble.
Defense and eye by power, not things you usually talk about at the same time. He's carrying it. Thanovic, they can put it in! They stay alive! We go to game 5.
What was this coming off the wall, dribbling it with that Batmobile?
Season 1 was a completely different game to what we have now. The ranks went from bronze to platinum, and apparently, platinum was reserved for only the top 100 players worldwide. And seeing as Rocket League was kind of a completely new game compared to anything else on the market, the people coming to the game and playing during Season 1 were still learning the basics compared to what we know now. The pro scene was dominated by those who put the hours in playing the prequel to the game, SAP. Rocket League was still in its infancy. But then Season 2 rolls around, and the game picks up a little speed. The ranks change. You have Prospect, Prospect Elite, Challenger, Challenger Elite, Rising Star, All-Star, Superstar, and Champion. And then, a little later on, comes Super Champion. And then Grand Champion. All of a sudden, ranks are more spread out, and the game's competitive nature really starts to kick in. This season only lasted from February 11th, 2016 to June 20th, 2016. As the season lasted just over a few months, it seemed to serve merely as a big update to improve upon the competitive aspect of the game. And with more time in the game, the skill level grew. Granted, still nowhere near what we know it to be today, but players were still learning more about what was possible in the game. Freestyling started to take some sort of form, but at this point it mainly consisted of pre-jumping and spinning. However, Rocket League was on the move. And then, the worst season of all time came in. Season 3 was kind of universally hated. Gameplay itself, that was still going well. Obviously, as more time passes, people improve, the game's skill ceiling grows higher and higher, and people are still learning more and more about what was possible. But on the rank side of things, well, things got a little rough. In Season 3, the player base found that it was extremely hard to reach the top rank, being Grand Champion. And while you may think that's a good thing, as that would make sense, it must have been deemed a little too hard, as Psyonix ended up making a competitive rank recalibration, which essentially made it so the top rank was much more accessible and players who were a few ranks below it would easily get in without their own gameplay changing at all. This came in the reduction of thresholds for certain skill tiers, allowing for a larger number of star and champion tier players, which then resulted in the increase of grand champion players. And that would be fine, except the season went from June 20th, 2016 to March 22nd, 2017. Season 3 was the longest competitive season so far, lasting approximately 9 months. And so, with a massive influx in people reaching the highest level, and then not having anything else to aim for competitively for months afterwards, the player base found it far too easy to reach this top rank, and so the complaints rolled in. But enough about that. Moving forward into seasons 4, 5, and 6 is where Rocket League really started to take its shape. The iconic ceiling shot goal from Squishy that cemented him as a household name in the Rocket League world, Turbo winning his second and third World Championship back to back, being season 3, 4, and 5, and of course, potentially the most memorable goal in all of Rocket League, Justin's 0-second goal to keep NRG in the finals.
Justin keeps it alive, Turbo's it there, bounces into the corner, NRG still around, Justin is there for the shot, Justin! This is Rocket League!
It was during this stretch of the game that mechanically, the general player base started picking up. And we were entering a phase where the best were becoming untouchable, and people who were just starting out were looking up at plays that seemed impossible. This, in my eyes, was the beginning of Rocket League as we see it today. During this time, mechanics like flip resets, double touches, and ceiling shots were becoming staples in RLCS games. The pro scene had evolved to becoming comfortable not only going for and hitting these clips, but also saving them. And so, at the top level, it started to look very mechanically intensive. And then, heading into ranked and the casual player base, people started to want to try and imitate this gameplay. But obviously, not to the same extent. It was around this time that players that were newer to the game felt the need to try and learn these difficult mechanics despite being so incredibly inexperienced. And so began what we generally refer to these days as classic platinum players. The players that dedicate all their time to going for fancy mechanics in ranked, but not being anywhere near good enough to actually use them effectively. On the other side of this though, we have the freestyling community, who have taken these mechanics seen at the highest level, spent countless hours not only learning and perfecting them, and then improving and moving past them. This is where you had players like Gainer, DLG, Evample all taking resets to a new level, Miracles, who many people, including myself, saw as an inspiration in the freestyling world, starting to make his way into the scene. You've got thousands of players hitting crazy shots that even some pro players couldn't really get their head around, and a pro scene that, at the highest level, was just looking like a completely different game. Rocket League was on its way to cementing itself as a tier 1 esports. From those days to the game we know it today, it's come a long way. Turbo Pulsar earned his 4th World Championship, Garrett G won his first after deserving to win it for years, content creators began to flock to the game, and a young man named Lethamir developed over 100 custom maps by himself. Multiple of our best and most adored content creators hit 1 million subs, but the game itself, the game is absolutely nothing like it once was. The highest level of Rocket League is an incredibly fast-paced, no room for error mechanical skill show that is being broadcast all across the world to hundreds of different media sites, and sometimes even on TV. The ranked player base is pulling out shots like double resets and musty double touches in ranks as low as Platinum. And yes, I laughed at this earlier, but there are some Platinum players out there that can do this. And if you don't believe me, check the comments. There'll be one there. There's always one there. Rocket League had become a game that was fixated on climbing the ranks and striving for improvement. And while it kind of always had been like that, it became even more so when they made the game free to play, and with it, brought out a new top rank to go for, Supersonic Legend. Now, all the players that had been stuck at Grand Champ for multiple seasons had a new goal to achieve. And so, our ranked warriors continue to push themselves to improve and climb higher than ever before. Now, on the other side of this, like I had mentioned previously, we had the freestylers, who at this point had been working on their own stuff, and some of the shots that are now being hit in today's game are, a little unbelievable. The freestyling scene seems to be constantly adapting and creating new shots and different ways to combine different mechanics, to the point where If you were to show any of these clips to a pro player from Season 1, you just know they'd have no shot at recreating it. The control that players have developed in this game, and the way people have observed, learnt, and improved upon almost each and every mechanic, just goes to show how high the skill ceiling really can go. This game has been out roughly 6 years. What started as a relaxed car football game with a decent amount of aerials in the pro scene has very quickly become one of the fastest, most mechanically challenging games at the pro level, with the majority of the time spent in the air. Rocket League itself has amassed millions of fans and players all over the world, each being brought to the game for different reasons and playing with different goals in mind. Some want to be the next Justin, some are looking to go down the freestyler route and train thousands of hours to perfect one mechanic. Some just want to hop on and play some casual games with their friends. You have players who have dedicated their time to just playing the extra modes, people who are big into trading in the community. You have the modding community, people who make custom maps, countless streamers and YouTubers all aiming to provide you with quality content based on the game we all know and love. A small game, owned by a small company, went on to make a deal with Epic Games, expanded upon the game in ways I'm sure they were never dreaming possible, bringing partnerships with brands that you can only dream of when you first develop a game, and now, as an end result, have a product that, while might not be finished, is a staple in the esports world. Easily watchable to those who don't follow esports, and a family-friendly game with no way of cheating, which is incredibly rare in the esports scene. Psyonix have managed to make an absolute Goliath of what started off as literally carball. And as for what the future holds, well, having recently been confirmed that the developers plan to move the game from Unreal Engine 3 to Unreal Engine 5, we could be in for a whole lot more. But for now, we have the game that we've built it to be, with a skill ceiling that is constantly rising, communities within the game continuing to further their own reach, and a pro scene being watched across the globe. I take great pride in saying, this is Rocket League.